Hello, everybody. This is Vaughn here coming to you with this is the second week of me doing reporting on Cook County property taxes and reporting properties that I've identified as statistical anomalies. In other words, these are properties that have been overassessed, and the overassessments that I will be identifying, or the properties that is, that I will be identifying that have been flagged as being overassessed, have been determined to be overassessed based on statistical data. So, for the past several weeks, months, years, I might even say I have been spending a good deal of time doing research and deep dives, running statistical models on Cook County property tax bills and identifying the inaccuracies in property taxes. Over that period of time, I have found myself attempting to explain why some of the misconceptions exist. I've also been attempting to explain for quite some time, why I believe my methodology is correct and how I have statistical confidence in what I'm doing. In other words, I've spent time trying to prove to people that I've been right and or I know what I'm talking about. What I've determined and what I've decided to do going forward is I'm not going to spend or waste any more time trying to prove to people why the information I am sharing is factually correct and aligned with the data, aligned with the standards, standards of mass appraisal, as an example. No longer on these videos will I do that. No longer on any of my social media posts will I do that. Going forward, I'm going to give you the facts as I know them to be facts based on the data models that I have developed. And I'm going to just give you, the output of those data, that data. I'm going to give you the information at the very high level. I'll give you enough information to identify what some of the problems are with these property tax bills. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to reach out to me if you need assistance with lowering your property tax bill and or getting a property tax refund. So once again, on these weekly videos especially, and certainly also on any social media posts that I make, no longer am I going to go into the details of what I am reporting. No longer will I try to justify, substantiate, or prove that what I am sharing is accurate. So, that being said, again, this is the second week that I am reporting properties that are validated statistical outliers with respect to the Cook County property tax assessments. This week, and probably going forward, I'm going to report out on properties specific to a community or village or a municipality. So for this week, the five properties that I am going to present that are statistical outliers are properties out of Markham, Illinois. So for any of you who are watching this video, if you own a property in Markham, Illinois, and or if you have a family member or a friend who owns a property in Markham, Illinois, please share this video with them because one of the properties that I present today could in fact be a property that you own or someone that you know owns. Also this week when I shared these properties that are out of Cook County, what I'm going to state is there's something I've identified when looking at these Markham, Illinois properties. Markham was in the news recently because the mayor was talking about some type of rental moratorium. If you are from the south suburbs or you know about the South suburbs, then you understand that South suburban municipalities for several years have been introducing and adopting rental moratoriums, different strategies to attempt to get some control on the number of rental properties that have been increasing in those communities over the recent years. So today, when I present some of the properties that I'm going to show, a few of them, quite candidly, turned into rental properties because the tax bills grew. So this very first property, as an example, and by the way, last week when I was sharing properties, I would give a portion of the address, and I believe I shared some videos or some images of z-scores demonstrating the statistical data that I developed. I'm not going to show any more graphs. I'm not going to give even a portion of the numerical address. I will give the street that the property is on. So this first property in Markham, Illinois, that I'm reporting on this week is on Winchester. Now, this first property on Winchester has a taxable or property tax bill that was payable in 2025 of $14,687.86. The Z score for this property was 5.029. As a quick reminder, for those of you who did not look at my previous videos, or if you haven't seen my videos from the past and some of my posts, a z-score is a measure of the standard deviation. It identifies how far or how wide that property is statistically with respect to its peer group. So this first property on Winchester has a z-score of 5.029. The 2024 property tax bill payable in 2025 was $14,687.86. The first installment of the 2025 property tax bill, payable of course in 2026, was $8,078.29. Now, this is one of those properties, quite candidly, that's been recently converted to a rental. So, as a result of this week's review, I'm going to be reaching out to Mayor Akpawa from Markham, because there is a reason why you have investors and folks who like to leverage properties for rental income are targeting areas like Markham. When you have a property tax bill that is statistically incorrect, most homeowners or home buyers who may be pre-approved for, let's say, $200,000 or $250,000, give or take, they're not going to be able to afford a property tax bill that's almost $15,000 as this property is on Winchester. Because by the time that purchase price, insurance, tax, and interest are put together, that $200,000 house may have a $3,000 or $3,500 monthly mortgage payment. So that person who's been pre-approved for $200,000 may never be qualified for that $200,000 house with a $15,000 property tax bill. So what happens? That property goes unsold, which is what happened with this property, and then it is delisted from the market and then relisted. When that property is relisted, what typically happens is that an investor who understands Section 8 and what HACC, the Housing Authority of Cook County, will pay in the southern suburbs, they know what that fee schedule presents, And what they can make off that property, chances are they're going to identify this property as an opportunity to make revenue and margin by converting it to a rental property. And a few of the properties that I am reporting out on today out of Markham, Illinois, that is what has transpired. So, for that reason, because I know what Markham is attempting to do with rentals and how they're looking to try and minimize rentals and increase ownership, I am going to engage the mayor of Markham, Mayor Power, and give him some of this data that I have already developed for these properties in Markham, Illinois. The second property I will report on for this week. Again, these are verifiable statistical outliers. Properties that have tax bills that have been assessed above what they should have been assessed based on their characteristically similar peer group. These are statistical outliers. The second property is on Paulina, again in Markham. The z-score is 4.995. The full 2024 property tax bill payable in 2025, $10,729.61. The first installment 2025 tax bill payable in 2026 was $5,901.33. This property, by the way, is a property flip. I won't go into those details right now. The next property in Markham, also on Paulina, the z-score 5.911, the 2024 property tax bill payable in 2025, $15,388.13. The first installment 2025 property tax bill payable in 2026, $8,463.44. On this property, there's no homeowner exemption. This is a rental property. So again, think about what I just said. If you are a home purchaser, a home buyer, and you're looking for a property that may have been recently updated, let's say the rehab was done correctly with the correct permits, with the correct inspections, you're looking for an entry level home, perhaps, first time home buyer. Maybe you have been pre approved for $200,000, $250,000. This property may have been a great candidate until you saw that $15,388 tax bill. That $200,000 property that you believe maybe should have a $2,000 monthly mortgage payment or a $1,700,000 monthly mortgage payment now has a $3,000 monthly mortgage payment, which means it's too high to fit within the parameters of the debt to income ratio for which you've been pre-approved for, a $15,000 tax bill. So what happens? That property is converted to a rental property. Very likely that's what happened to this property. The next property in Markham, Illinois, the fourth property for this week. It's on Marshfield. The z-score 6.121. The 2024 full property tax bill payable in 2025, $9,339.80. The first installment 2025 payment that was made in 2026 for this property on Marshfield, $5,136.88. Now, this property has a homeowner exemption applied to it. That's good. Also with this property, a certificate of error was submitted and the bill was reduced. But guess what? When I ran the 2025 statistical model report to determine whether or not this property is an outlier? Yes, it's an outlier. So even though a certificate of error was submitted for this property and applied, the subsequent tax bill, the most recent tax bill, is still wrong. The next property, the final property for this week, also in Markham, on Winchester. The Z-score for this property, 4.344. The full 2024 property tax bill, payable in 2025, $9,128.77. The first installment 2025 property tax bill, payable in 2026, was $5,020.87. Now, for this property, there is a homeowner exemption and a disabled persons exemption. And guess what? The property tax bill is incorrect. This property also, with someone or for someone who has a disabled person exemption on their property, the property is over assessed. Statistically verified, it's over assessed. This homeowner is paying more than what they should be paying on this property. So that's it for this week. Those are the 5 properties that I have chosen to report on for this week out of Markham, Illinois. So again, based on my findings from this week, I plan on reaching out to the mayor of Markham because I understand the dynamics of what's going on. When you have properties that are first time home buyer price points, or those properties have first time home buyer price points, but if the tax bills are wrong, $14,000 a year, $15,000 per year, those first time home buyers, 9 times out of 10, in most cases, will not be pre-approved to buy that house because the tax bill is too high. Even though the purchase price may fit within their pre-approval parameters, by the time they factor in that yearly property tax bill, it takes them out of that pre-approval. They're not able to purchase that property, and then chances are an investor buys the property, and that property turns into a rental. No problem with rental properties. No problem with renters. However, when there is an oversaturation of renters in communities that have been historically homeowner saturated, and the community is based on home ownership, oftentimes you have problems or there's some fallout that exists. Again, my name is Vaughn Harrison. If you have any questions or need assistance on appealing your property tax bill using objective data, and or you want to leverage the certificate of error process to get a refund, contact me. My phone number, 888-339-6911. Again, 888-339-6911. Next week, I plan on reporting out on properties in Country Club Hills, Illinois. That's where I'm from. Again, everyone, thank you very much. See you next time, a week from today.